Okay, so today I'm going to demonstrate the mold assassin and how good it is at taking the mold off these tapes without damaging the tape. This is one of the tapes that I got from my mom, who had kept all of our VHS tapes in a barn, and they're not all this bad, but all of them had some bit of mold on it. But this one's one of the worst ones I've seen. And then we're going to put it through my contraption, which I have coined the name the Mold Assassin, with good reason, and I just recently upgraded it with a second motor. I'll explain that later. But without much further ado, let's get into it. So I've already taken out some of the bolts, going to take out the rest of them. I think we got them all. Okay, bear with me for a second. Flip the tape over. Nope. And then here we have a look at the actual tape reels. Now, a lot of the mold actually collects on the plastic surface above, but a lot of it does get on the tape as well, which you'll see. Now, mold is dangerous, which I guess I should put my gloves on real quick. Let me do that. Okay, so I've got my gloves on now. Now, the first step of this is to actually put, I guess we pull the reels off, like so. Okay, and to make it less dangerous, I'm going to place it in what I call the UVC chamber, which is basically a modified shop light with a UVC bulb. And I believe it's like a 254 nm or wherever they rate it. So it's germicidal, will kill mold. So we'll put that in the chamber, and we're going to come over here and I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to run this one for, I think 20 minutes is the second setting, but you'll see the light kick on. I ain't going to make you sit through that, but we'll come back. Okay, so as I'm waiting for the chamber to clean the tape reels off, I got me some 99% alcohol. I'm trying to do this with one hand, so bear with me. And I'm basically going to scrub down the entire surface of the tape. Okay, so after I scrubbed every single crevice with the 99% alcohol, still waiting for that to finish. That'll be a little bit longer. But basically, when you invest a lot in VCR, you don't want to put any kind of mold contaminants in the VCR, because the spores can continue to grow and damage your device and then transfer it to anything else you put in that tape or anything else you put in that VCR. So that's the reason you don't want to mess around with just putting a moldy tape in your VCR. It's one thing if it's a cheap VCR, but you're still spreading the mold spores around. So anyway, so that's clean, so I'll continue here in a few. Okay, so I guess as I'm waiting for the tape to finish cleaning, I'm going to kind of give a summary of the Mold Assassin's functionality. Now, a lot of this was after a lot of research of some old RTA tape check systems. That's what kind of spurred the idea. And then I saw somebody had a DIY tape cleaner that had used a similar Kenyo VCR rewinder as the basis of it, but then it was just one spool of something that was pretty simple. But that's kind of what spurred the idea, that and then a hybrid with the RTI tape check systems, which are impossible to get, and, well, not impossible, but very hard to get, and they're very expensive. So I've actually utilized the RTI tape check tissue that's used in those systems on these spools. But to give a quick rundown, we basically hijacked the chassis of a VHS rewinder, and I had to do some custom cutting and modding to it to make it fit. This technically could come off the top cover, and it makes it easier to get the tape reels in here, but it just looks better with it on there. Now, I just recently added this motor here. This one's a 50 RPM. That's incredibly slow, and I'm not sure if it's going to work yet, if it's going to have enough torque to turn the tapes, but the reason I did that is because this is a 1000 RPM motor, and while it works, I'm worried that when we have a really moldy tape, that it's spinning at a high rate of speed and actually stretching the film as it pulls the mold spores off, like how the mold has the tape sort of stuck together. That's my issue with it, and I've noticed that if I just run through the tapes fast, it does cause damage to them if I do it at full speed on the 1000. Now, if I do it slow on the 1000, I haven't had any issues at all. But I'm wanting to try a really slow process for when the tapes are really moldy, to sort of slowly break away the mold, and then I can switch the motors, and I set up a toggle switch here. So basically, the only thing I need to do is change the belt from one to the other, the PU belt. So we're going to try that here in a few minutes to see if that works at 50 RPM. Now, a couple other things. These little spindles are off of just standard VCRs. I mean, every VCR has them. I forget the technical term, but I use those for the tape side, or the magnetic strip side of the tape that's actually read on the devices. So anywhere that side of the tape runs, it's either running on tissue or these white spindles. And these are little things I use for robotics. You can buy them on Amazon to convert it from one side where it's fastened to a bolt to the other side where it's fastened to the little pin end of the spindle thing there. Now, for the other side, anywhere where the tape goes on the other side, I've actually taken you can see here, taken these off of good tapes that they're solid and they don't have the split. And that's what I use for the non-magnetic strip side of the tape, on all the other points. So it's on that side of the tape, it's either going to meet these things or tissue. So that's how that's laid out. Now, so a little bit more here. This right here is the speed controller for these two motors. Okay, so we can go forward and reverse, and then of course off is the center point. Now here I've also set up an auto stop functionality to kind of work like how VCRs work when they detect that the tape is running out, so it slows the rewind functionality out. Now that I still have to adjust the sensors a bit. I'm still working the bugs out. But with that, we've got a left photocell, which I wrapped in heat shrink to isolate the reading of the photocell directly in front of it. And then the other one is right here for the other side of the tape. And then those are connected here to these two photocell switches. So basically this is set up to where when I have that activated, the only way the motors will run is if the photocell sensors detect total darkness from looking right at the tape. So once the clear header comes up on the tape, it'll trip one of these switches, and then it'll stop it from running. And that's just to prevent damage if I'm running the tape fast. It's probably not needed, but something I wanted to do. So right here on this side, we've got the tissue speed, which this is the tissue motor right here. Speed control, start and stop of the tissue timer right here, and then of course it came with the direction thing. I don't really need it, it's only going to go one direction, but it does have the option for it. So another Amazon purchase right here is it's a time controlling switch and duration switch. So basically I can set that to anything I want via the buttons down here. I think I have it set to run for 1 or 2 seconds every 65 seconds. So the thought process in that is I don't want to run through this expensive tissue super quick, because these things, if you can find them, are like anywhere from $4 to $9 a roll, and I've got 3 in this setup. So this motor is activated by this timer controlled switch. When it activates for the 1 or 2 second duration that I have it set at, this motor spins and then it refreshes all the tissue stations. So I've got pulleys on each one of these, and that's what's pulling it against this longer bolt. That's the surface where the tape's going to be. Right here's where the tape runs across. Now I have it set up for the tape on the magnetic side is getting hit twice with the tissue on each pass, and then the back side is actually getting hit once with tissue. And then on top of that, I have added some additional functionality here. This is a makeshift sapphire burnisher. This is actually a tool that's used for polishing joints in watches and different things of that nature. It's ground sapphire. Now, the RTI systems have a sapphire burnisher, and you can get them, but you're talking like anywhere from $190 to $250, and this was like $30-something on Amazon. So I basically chopped it off, and then I threaded it. I can't remember, it may have been 3/8. Can't remember. I threaded it and then bolted it down on both sides, and then I have the 2 white spindles right here to ensure that it's a smooth run across the sapphire blade. And then the last thing I have is a vacuum assist, which some of the expensive RTI units have. So basically I can hook a shop vac up here, and then it's going to have points of vacuum at each point of contact on the tissue. So as that tissue is shining the tape or polishing the tape and knocking the molds mold particles and spores off of the tape, this vacuum right here is actually sucking it out to keep it from getting spooled back into the tape over here. So I have that at every contact point and at the sapphire burnisher, because there's contact here as well. These I had to just make shift. I kind of melted I forget the dimensions on it, but it's a nylon PVC. And I basically got a small flat, it's like you could use a screwdriver or something, but something small and flat, and then I melted it around it to basically not use too much suction at one point. That way it's all shared throughout the system. But we're still waiting for that to go on. But that's pretty much a guide to how this thing is put together and works. Now, I thought this pegboard, this wall control pegboard, would be rigid enough to handle this system on its own, but unfortunately it's not. So I had to actually reinforce the bottom of it with some steel support. I think they're shelving supports or something along those lines, and I had to drill them through and support the whole system. Let me see if I can get a better shot of that. So, right. Okay, so the thing has been in here for at least 25-30 minutes. I even pulled it out for a second and switched the spools around to make sure it got full exposure to the light. So I thought it'd be fun. I have a nice new little gadget that I'm using for my soldering. I figure we'll take a look at this mold under the microscope before and after. Let's see here. Go ahead and record this. And that's pretty nasty. That's why you gotta be careful. Zoom out a little bit here. There's some nasty stuff. So the system will definitely get rid of that. I've not looked at it under the microscope after I've cleaned a tape, but I have cleaned many, and they definitely look spotless. So we'll see if I can still spot any of that residue after I get. Okay, so safety first on this. I'm going to try to show you how I route this through the system. Now, of course, the tape check systems automatically load it and do that part of it for you, but I'm not quite that advanced. Okay, let me get the tape here. Yeah, let me change gloves before I pull my glove off. Okay, so here's how it's routed. Now this is laid out exactly like it would be if it was in a tape. So you got your left reel, right reel. First, magnetic side goes across the white spindle, and then the back side of the tape runs on these two spindles here. Now, I set it up to where I could run the tape through the UVC light as it was going, but I didn't really think about the fact that it needs more exposure than just the split second that it's on there. However, I figured it can't hurt to run it again, even after I've already UVC'd the spools, just to be safe. So it routes here, and then there's the chamber in the UVC chamber there, so I can run right through that tunnel. First stage of the filter cleaning is right here. That's on the magnetic side. And then you've got the back side. Push that down. I was just making some tweaks a minute ago. And then over here, it comes, again, the back side is around the metal spindle, and then it comes to the white spindle with the magnetic strip side, runs across the sapphire burnisher, and then comes across again on the magnetic side on this cleaning tissue here. And then it comes, oops, I didn't get that one on there right. The magnetic side comes on that spindle there. What are we doing here? Oh, there we go. Okay. So then the magnetic strip hits that side one last time to keep it from banging up over here. Okay, so that's the setup. And then let's go ahead and get this chamber shut. And then you can see here, it clears the tunnel. Okay. And then I'm going to set up the vacuum and then we'll run it through the system. Okay, so I got the vacuum ran, shot back over here. I got the exhaust port out of the garage. I don't want that stuff blowing in here. And I'm going to turn it on. It's going to get loud, but I'll show you how it works. There's the vacuum assist. So I'm going to hit the timer control here for the tissue. That's the start-stop button. It runs for 1 second, and then the duration will run for 75 seconds, and then it'll refresh it again. Alright, so we're coming up on the timer. If you watch, the spindles will refresh. Oh, I had the speed turned down. Sure, here's how it'll work. I can speed it up a little bit. Still going. I went ahead and maxed the motor out. That's as fast as this one will go. It's just safer for when the tape is pulling apart from the mold, so you don't stretch the tape out. You can see it sort of skipping a little bit. And what I was finding is if you ran it really fast with my other motor, I would see little stretched ripples in the bottom of the tape. So that's why speed's your enemy. See if I can get a better shot of this refreshing. All right.
Okay, you can start to see the first pass. As we're rewinding this tape, you can see the first pass is starting to come off with cleaner tape. Now you still see a lot of debris. That's probably on the surface of the plastic reel. And once we get done with rewinding it, I'm going to clean the reel off with 99% alcohol, and then we'll go the other way, and then we'll probably hook it up to the high-speed motor and run it one more time backwards. Make sure it's nice and clean. But once I go this way, I'll clean this spool, and then we should be rid of all the nasty stuff on there. You can see it starts to collect on the spindles, and then also over here. It collects on there as well. So once it's all done, I'll have to go and vacuum the stuff off, and I guess technically I could leave it out in the sun or even use the UV light on it. But if this thing works as advertised, the spore should be dead. So there should be no risk in it, but I don't want to risk it.
Okay, I turned the vacuum off so you can actually hear what I'm saying, and you can see I activated the auto stop functionality, so we'll see if my my sensors are working correctly. If they are, the tape should stop as soon as the clear header comes past that photo cell. And you can see on the tape over here that it's, I mean, very clean and where the starting point was. And like I said, the mold that you see is on the surface of that reel, top clear plastic part of the reel. So here comes the end of the tape here, and hopefully my setup works here. Maybe off just a little bit. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so it did work. It shut it off. So now I'm gonna get some 99% alcohol. Of course, I got to get my gloves back on. But I'm gonna get some 99% alcohol and scrub the top of that, and I'll continue at that point. One other thing I didn't point out is some of this tape is not ever going to be, at the very beginning and very end, will never hit some of the cleaning surfaces. So it's a good idea to. Of course, I can't really do this with one hand, but you get the point. I've got to clean off this surface, the part that will never actually hit any of the cleaning elements. Same thing when I rewind the spool on the other side. But for now, let's see if I can do this. I'm probably not going to do this. There we go. Okay, you might be able to see. Yeah, okay. So we're just going to scrub it with 99% alcohol. You could probably see there's a ton of stuff on the bottom and the top. Probably wouldn't hurt to vacuum it as well, but can't really do that right this minute. And I actually have no intention on capturing this tape. It's an old cartoon that was filmed. I may check it just to make sure there's nothing else on it, but other than that, obviously want to get every bit of it, especially the top, because that's the most visible. I mean, you of course want it gone, but you don't want to see it either. Okay, so that should do it. And after trying out that 50 RPM motor, I believe I'm going to probably up it to a 200 RPM, because it literally is like real-time playback, and that just takes way too long. Okay, so that's clean. Now we're going to set this up again to rewind it. But for the time being, I'm going to actually switch the motors, because I don't want to wait for this thing, seeing how I'm not capturing this tape. So, there's an easier way to do this, but there's not. Come on. Alright, there's that one. Bring it on over. Oops. Okay, that motor's set up now. Go ahead and tighten this up. Okay, I've got the motor switched up, so we'll just bypass that for now. And now we're going the opposite direction. I put it on the faster motor this time. And then we'll turn on the tissue thing once we get to that next starting point. I'll stop it when we get there and hook the vacuum back up. But you can see, you can definitely run it quicker, and you can see why you don't want to, you can't do it this fast when you got mold breaking away. But since we've already broke the mold away on this part of the tape, I'm not really worried about it. So I'll come back once we get to the point where I need to start cleaning again.
Okay, so we are back where it needs to be cleaned. I'm going to slow this motor down. Slow as I can get it. Turn this back on. You can see why that may be fast for moldy tape, because it kind of rips. So this motor is going to get updated to the 200 RPM, so it doesn't take as long, but obviously that's too fast when it's that moldy.
Okay, so that's the first total pass, and you can see the second part of the tape is still a little bit dirty, and that's because I ran it so fast. That's why the slower motor is better, and that one's going to be updated to 200 RPM, and then you can see all the residual stuff I'm going to have to clean out of here. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back. Okay, I got it cleaned, and then we're starting the long journey back. To spool that up one more time, and I'm going to run the vacuum just to try to suck any of the residual stuff off of there. And after that, we should be good.
Alright, it's about to finish up.
Okay, so the auto stop worked. Let's go ahead and turn it off. And we're looking pretty good. I do see some small trace elements. I think I might run it through one more time just to be safe. Okay, we're in the process of the final rewind portion of this, and I'm going to look at it under the microscope just to see if there's a lot of particles left or if it's in pretty good shape. But we'll continue when I get done rolling it. Alright, so we're coming up to the end of the tape. Okay, and let's just take a gander. That looks pretty solid. Let's go ahead and look at it under the microscope. Okay, so I got it out of the mold assassin. Let's just see what we got here. Looks like there's scuffs. Could be some little residual stuff on this little tiny part on the tapes, maybe. Okay, after reassembly, this is the finished product here, and you can see, I mean, it looks pretty stinking good. Okay, so before I turn the vacuum on, I went ahead and replaced this motor with a 200 RPM motor, and we're going to see if this works out more to what I want it to do.